Hey guys, what is up? Kit here of Burn 1, bringing you another breakdown video, this time on Abysscraft for the Set 2 meta. Abysscraft is a tier 1 deck right now. It's the best aggressive deck you can be playing, and so you're going to be seeing it a lot at regionals and locally. So here's what you need to know about the craft in order to combat it or even play it. Starting off with their strengths, first things first is that this is a very fast deck to be playing. It plays low to the ground with a lot of very good statted followers that can push damage very easily. That way, the deck itself can usually end the game on its terms between turns 5 and like your turn 5 to turn 7 is the sweet spot of where Abysscraft wins a majority of its games. Second part is it's an aggressive deck. Like I said, you have very good statted followers to push that aggression, usually leaning more towards the attack side of things when it comes to stats. That way, when you do get a swing in, it's usually for a good amount, or it has very good ways to like continually apply pressure to your opponent's life total with burn damage. So we have a lot of good burn spells, the biggest one being Razor Claw. It's available to this craft, along with neutral craft stuff that you can mix in here that also does face damage. Finally, we get good value for our followers. The good value followers all like generate either tokens or they generate some kind of extra ability if we invest some of our life total or extra play points into or anything like that, or if we have a big enough cemetery to activate its necrocharge effect. All right, on to weaknesses here. First things first, fast. Once again, I think this is a double-edged sword. Not only is this a strength, this is also a weakness for yourself because your games are going to be very quick. Like I said, you're ending most of your games between turns 5 and 7 or so. That's like the sweet spot for Abysscraft, which means that you're going to have less draws usually, less opportunities to make decisions that like highly impact the game. That means if you make one bad decision early on, you've probably lost the game because you have to play very clean since you have less opportunities to make decisions in the game. Next part, being aggressive. Once again, it's a double-edged sword. Your craft generally is very straightforward, so most people understand how to play against the aggro deck, which is they're going to ward up, heal up, and like grind out your resources till you have nothing left to really play with, and then they win the game through that. They don't necessarily have to get your life total to 0 because by time they grind the game out, you could have 0 card hand with nothing on board, and they could be at 5 life and now playing like a Shenlong, and they're going back to 10, and you have no hope at that point of actually winning the game. Next, self-damage. So when I talk about this craft having a lot of value in it, you get extra like stats or extra effects for paying a cost. That cost usually is self-damage, which means not only are you pushing damage on your opponent, you're also pushing damage on yourself. There are a lot of games where you will end up doing more damage to yourself than your opponent does to you before you win the game, which is pretty funny if you think about it. Next, hand advantage. There are not a lot of very powerful ways to build hand advantage in Abysscraft. Mostly is soul conversion and using either other followers that aren't in Abysscraft, which is like Bellringer Angel and things like that, to just like generate some kind of card advantage or ways to like filter cards, because you go so fast and so low to the ground that you kind of burn your hand out very, very quickly by turn 6 or 7 if you're not playing carefully and playing everything as optimally as possible. Finally, healing. Though this craft has more healing than Swordcraft, this is still an issue with this craft. Not because necessarily they don't have a lot of access to it. It's more of the fact that you're taking all that self-damage, so a lot of healing you're doing throughout the game. If you decide to play any of the followers or spells that do generate healing for you, they're not as impactful in that way because you very much spend a lot of your life as a resource. So like your extra 2 that you heal here and there doesn't necessarily like amount to a lot all the time when you're like already hurting yourself like 8 to 10 damage in a game anyway. All right, so here are the key cards for the aggressive stuff. First things first, we have Mini Soul Devil. This is, I feel like I want to say, the poster child for this version of Abysscraft. I think Mini Soul Devil is one of the best value 2-drops you could be playing in Abysscraft, and especially the aggro version. So this is a 3/2, so we're already overstated on the attack side, with a ability that is whenever one of your other followers evolves, you get to deal 2 damage directly to the leader. So not only do we get to go over wards, we also get to swing in with a 3 cost. So you can do things like Play this on 2. If it doesn't get removed, play a 3-drop follower. For example, the next follower here, Playful Necromancer. Evo it using the Evo point. So now you've dealt 2 damage to your opponent's face. Swing in with Mini Soul Devil. That's another 3 damage. That's 5 damage for only 2 play point cost going in. So this is a high priority target your opponent must remove in any game you play against with Abysscraft. Once this is on board, it gets very scary if you let it sit there for more than a turn. Next, Playful Necromancer is another really great value aggressive statted follower here. So it's a 3-drop 3/3, pay 1 to evolve into a 4/4. The on evolve part is what really matters here. You get to summon 3 ghost tokens. If you're not familiar with what the ghost token is, it's a 1/1 follower with Storm that at the end phase it banishes the card. The ghost just disappears. So for 4 play points, you get a 7/7 worth of stats essentially, and 3 of those stats can immediately move into face, or use like 1 or 2 ghosts to go ahead and remove the last play point or last health points of a ward, so you can get in there with Playful Necromancer for damage or for help clearing things out. So like this isn't a very aggressive card. Usually seeing this on 3 is like primo value for you. You love that stuff. Next, these next 2 cards you don't see as often. It depends on if the opponent likes to play these cards or not right now. They're a little bit slower, but in set 1 they were around. This is just so you guys are aware. We have Dark General. If Sanguine is active for you, this follower gains Storm. Sanguine, of course, being that if you've taken damage during your own turn when you play this card, if it's already active for you, then you can get 5 storm damage. A really common combo with this card on 6 is Razor Claw to deal 3 damage to opponent's face and then 2 damage to yourself from the card's effect. Being able to play this afterwards, do 5 face. So for 6 play points, you get 8 face damage and 2 damage to yourself, which is pretty good. Your opponent has to always play around weird scenarios like that. Finally, Alcard is another storm follower, though you probably won't see this card as much, if at all, anymore. Though it is still an option to be played, it still gives very good value. It's a 7-drop 4/4 that has Storm, but Necrocharge 10. So if you have 10 cards in your graveyard, this gains an extra 2 attack. And then it has Strike, so you can select an enemy follower on the field and deal 4 damage, and then give your leader +4 health, which is very good value. And this is one of the few followers that generates more than like 2 health, essentially, when you have this card. All right, so we have this aggressive and value slide. I hope you notice how big I've left these cards on the screen here to emphasize how important this card is. This is probably the best card that was given to Abysscraft right now for this meta. It kind of shaped the deck completely. This is a 4-drop 6/5 that Fanfare, you deal 3 to your leader. So on play, you're going to deal 3 to yourself. But look at those stats for only 4 play points. That is insane. It also has Ward, though I think Ward is not that important. Being a 6/5 means it's very hard to deal with. You leave this unengaged and you evo it the next turn, or you just do it the same turn. It becomes a 7/6, but on evolve, select an enemy follower on the field, destroy it, and give your leader +X health, where X equals the selected follower's attack. And this is a 7/6 for 4 + 2, like 5 plus an evo point is insane. One of the best things about aggro Abyss, or scariest things I should say, is that on their turn 4, if they play this follower on the board and do not engage it, it becomes very tough to deal with. 5 health is very hard for some people to get to on their turn 4, meaning that the next turn they get to evo this, which means you can't really develop your board anymore, because if you develop your board, anything that's very good is just going to immediately be destroyed from this effect when it evos if you can't deal with this card immediately. And then the 3 damage they took now gets healed off. Most of the time I've seen it usually heal 1 or 2 extra off of it, so you heal for 4 or 5 depending on what's on the board during the time this happens. A lot of times too, Abyss players will hold this till like turn 5 with an evo point, so that anything you develop gets destroyed. Now that you get to deal with this 7/6, and if you can't answer it immediately the next turn, that's 7 face damage. It's very, very scary. All right, so let's take a look at the burn spells here and the burn followers. First things first, Razor Claw. This is basically our like lightning bolt of the set. It's a 2 cost. You deal 2 damage to your own leader, and then you deal 3 damage to either the enemy follower or enemy leader itself. And this is also quick, so you can do it on the end of your opponent's turn if you need to. Very good value. Normally, the only other way to burn usually is with a 3 cost spell that doesn't have quick, which is Demonic Strike, I believe, which is a neutral. Next, we have Ambling Wraith. This is one of the primo 1-drops that you'll see for quite a while. It's also one of the ways we can get Sanguine activated for cheap. It's a 1-drop on play. It deals 1 damage to both leaders, yourself and your opponent, and it's a 2/1, which is decent stats for what it does. And then next, Demonic Hedonist is a very great card. I feel like it's new in the new set. It's a 2-drop 2/2. You can pay 1 to evolve. It has the effect before it evolves. At the start of your end phase, if Sanguine is active for you, draw a card, then discard a card. So it lets you filter if you've pinged yourself that turn. And then the evolve form becomes a 3/3 with strike, deal 1 damage to each leader. This way you can get burn damage in on your leader, but also activate Sanguine for yourself. So every time you swing with this card, you get to go ahead and draw 1 and discard a card. I really like this card a lot because it can set up ways for you to dig for burn spells. A lot of times where my opponent's very close to losing the game, but I'm looking for like 1 more Razor Claw or Demonic Strike out of my deck, I can go use this to trade into a follower, control the board a little bit, and then also be able to, cycle my hand to find that extra burn spell. It's like an extra draw to find the exact thing you need for lethal. Finally, Righteous Devil. Though I don't think this card is going to be played as much, I do know it does get played occasionally. It has Evolve. The cost for the Evolve, I believe, is take 3 damage. And this card has Bane. It's a 2/4. When it evolves, it's a 3/5 and gains a Cell in Bane. So this is a way you can get rid of any of the reserve followers they have that are standing or untapped. And then whenever an enemy follower is destroyed, you deal 1 damage to its leader and give yourself +1 health. So you could put this on the board, evolve it, and do something like, if you really want to, you can like Razor Claw or trade something in to another follower. You can gain one back and deal 1 to your opponent at the same time as you kind of control the board that way. Next here we have the value cards here. So these are all cards that will generate some kind of value throughout the game for you, whether it be through tokens or through like other effects. First things first, Shadowverse. This is a very powerful card, and it's going to be around for Abyss in a long time. It's very hard for me to even imagine decks that don't run this card because of how good it is. It has it's a 4-drop 3/3. The stats kind of suck for a 4-drop, but that kind of fixes itself a little bit later, because on play you get either a Mimi or a Coco. 1 spell. Those are 0-cost spells that go into your EX zone. You can choose which one you want. If you have Necrocharge 10, you get both on play instead. One of them deals 2 damage to any follower you want. The other one gives +2 attack to any follower you want on your field. So you can use this to build up a bunch of the +2 attack spells in your EX area, and wait for a point where your opponent is forced to tap out, and you can get damage straight in. Just pump like a ghost in for like 8, so it's a 9/1 ghost swinging in. It's pretty funny to see when that happens, but those are some games end up that way, where you just pump 1/1 creature or follower and just do a ton of damage to face to end the game that way. And then the evolved version has on evolve put both a Mimi and a Coco into your EX area. So then if you have Necrocharge 10, you can get 4 spells essentially right off the bat from playing this and evolving it. The evolve cost, of course, being 2, which is kind of rough, so you can't really play this on turn 5 without an Evo point. Next, Vite, the Vampire Noble. This is a very powerful 2-drop. It's probably one of the premium 2-drops to be evolving because it generates so much value for you, because you have a spell that we'll talk about later on called Soul Conversion. So this is a 2-drop 2/2 that has Strike, Summon a Forest Bat, and then it has pay 1 to Evo. On Evo, you get to put a Forest Bat token into your EX area, and then once again, you still have Strike, Summon a Forest Bat. So this is a way you can gain some value by getting like a little bit of extra 1/1s onto the board. Then next turn or during your opponent's turn, you can trade off those 1/1s using Soul Conversion to turn those into 2 cards you get to draw essentially. They also can get in there, poke a little bit. Sometimes you leave a warded follower with like 1 or 2 health. If you get 2 bats out there, you can just remove that follower like that. Next, Trick Dullahan. This card is like, I have like a love-hate relationship with it. I think it's pretty good because it's a 2-cost 3/2. The only sad thing about it is it doesn't really have an Evo form, and we kind of want to Evo in combination with Mini Soul Devil, but it does, we kind of give up on that instead to get this Fanfare effect. That is, you put a ghost token into your EX area, and if you have Necrocharge 10, you put 3 instead. A lot of times you can play this out on 2. You'll get a ghost into your EX area, you'll hold it there, right? And then you can play it out later for essentially wait for the right moment to weave in the ghost to do that damage where your opponent can't really answer it. Because you can do things like I said, summon the ghost, then like pump it 8 attack, and now you're swinging in with a 9/1 ghost for the turn. It was just pretty scary. And then finally, we here have Skeleton Fighter, which is one of the other premium 1-drops. If Sanguine's active for you, this gets +1/+1. So it's a 1-drop 3/3. I think every class would love to have a 1-drop 3/3. This is like part of the reason I'm talking about, where these value cards generate good value for you at a cost, this case being like pinging yourself 1. Next here, we have a few more value cards. Had to go a little bit further. Needed 2 slides for this one. Like I was saying earlier, Soul Conversion. A lot of the value in this set is at a cost. In this case, Soul Conversion, you have to destroy one of your own followers to be able to draw 2. This is how we get value through bats and through ghosts, just, you know, soul converting them away for extra draw that way. Otherwise, sometimes you have to just soul convert your own things that are either getting traded into, or if you need to find that burn spell, you know, you do things like play a goblin, soul convert the goblin on the same turn just to dig a little bit. Next, we have Lilith. These next 3 cards don't get played as much, but I think you should be aware of them, that they exist out there. If you're familiar from set 1, Lilith is a 2-drop 2/2 that evos into a 3/3 at the cost of 1. Has Fanfare. When it comes into play, you put a bat into your EX area, so that generates a bat for you that you can summon out later to trade off with Soul Conversion, like I was saying. And then this has Strike, the Evo form. Give your leader +2 health. This is one of the other ways we can like heal back a little bit since we're always like pinging ourselves to get some value out of some other cards later on. Next, these other 2 are definitely played a lot less unless you're in some kind of specific build, but I felt like you need to know about these just to be aware. Lesser Mummy, it's a 2-drop 2/2 that has pay 1 to evolve it. It has Fanfare, Necrocharge 10, it gains Storm. And then the Evo form has Strike, summon a ghost token, so you get value that way. So you can get, this becomes like you can trade this in to another 3/3, summon a token and go face with it, then soul convert it away. Do little neat tricks like that, which is kind of cool. Though this card doesn't get played as often anymore, it's just a card you should keep in your mind occasionally if you're trying to figure out what ways I can lose the game playing against Abysscraft. And finally, Vanya Vampire Princess. As much as I want this card to be really good in this meta right now, it is not. It needs more support, honestly, but it has an effect that you should be aware of, because if someone does play this on you and you're just like blindsided by it, you could potentially lose the game. So it's a 2-drop 2/2 that has Fanfare. Give this flower +X/+X, where it equals up to the number of Force Bat tokens on your field. So this could potentially become, if this is the 5th card you've played and there's 4 other bats on play, this is a 2-drop 6/6 that has a secondary effect that's really solid too, which is you can pay 1 and then put a Force Bat token from your field into your cemetery, and then you select an enemy fall on the field, deal 3 damage to it, and then deal 1 damage to its leader. I haven't really seen this card be played that much, and from what I've heard around, it's not like the deck that it is in isn't played very often. It isn't very powerful right now, but you should be aware of this card existing. All right, so honorable mentions for key cards here. These are some cards that I think they get played occasionally right now, though they haven't really found like the perfect home to be in, essentially. These first 2 might be more involved in control. I've seen some aggro lists play Azazel as well. And then depending on what you want to be doing on 3, sometimes Crazy Executioner is in the aggro deck, but most of the time it's more in the control deck, I feel like. First things first is Underworld Watchman Quay, I think is how you say it. This is a 5-drop 5/5 with Ward. It has last word, select an enemy follower on the field, destroy it, and give your leader +X health, where X equals the selected follower's attack. You should be wary of this card, though I don't think this card is super amazing because there's a lot of ways to play around it. There is one play line though that you need to be aware of, which is like them playing this card down and using Soul Conversion to sack it immediately, essentially to draw 2 and remove something while healing like a huge amount if you have a very high attack follower on the board. Next, Azazel. Azazel is mostly used in like the control decks because all it's trying to do is set up a OTK turn. Since Azazel is a 7-drop, I believe it's a 6/6. I might be wrong here. I can't see the card behind this, but it has Necrocharge 10. The cost of this card goes down from 7 to 3. And then it has Fanfare. Each opponent randomly discards a card. And then the Evo form has Bane as well as on evolve. Change each enemy leader's health total to 10. So what happens usually is they don't really care about your life total for the most of the game until they play Azazel Evo, set you to 10, and then either that turn or the next turn they have a way to set up immediate lethal on your on you, essentially. Finally, Crazed Executioner. This is a very solid card for being more control, or if you want to like play this card when your board is wide and then evo it to see if your opponent has a way to deal with the board, and if they do, you can rip it out of their hand. So it's a 3-drop 3/3, pay 1 to evolve. On evolve, deal 2 damage to your leader. Select an opponent, they reveal their hand, select a card in their hand, then the opponent discards that card. Like I said, this card is more in like the control list, I feel like, though I've seen it pop up occasionally in the aggro list. Usually I'm personally not a big fan of it in the aggro list, but you know, I've played against it in aggro list, and sometimes it's really funny when they like look at my hand and they pull out, they like take my Jean or something. I'm like, well, next turn is going to be a lot harder now. So, but yeah. All right, thanks for watching, guys. As always, like, comment, subscribe. Also, follow us on X or Twitter or whatever we call it now. First one there being at Burn1TCG. That is our main like channel account where I'll post you know, whatever is going on with our account and retweets of like myself or Dean or whatever you post up. And the second one there is my own account at KatoriJP. Go ahead and follow that if you want to interact with me on Twitter. Other than that, I hope to see you guys in the next video. Later, everyone.